You know, when you're dealing with the world's most dangerous pathogens, putting on your gear is all about building a fortress. But taking it off, that's like navigating a minefield. One wrong move, just one, and it's all over. This isn't just about following steps. It's a discipline where every single breath, every movement has to be perfect. So today, we're going to walk through the incredibly precise, high-stakes procedure for using advanced personal protective equipment, or PPE. And let me be clear, this is not your everyday protocol. This is for situations where there is absolutely zero room for error.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about why the stakes are so high. Then you'll meet the team, because you never do this alone. We'll walk through donning, that's putting the gear on, and then doffing, the most critical part, taking it all off. We'll wrap it all up with the core principles that make this entire system work. Right. So we're talking about a level of protection where the procedure itself is literally your main line of defense. In these kinds of environments, a mistake isn't just a mistake. It's a potential catastrophe. Every single step we're about to go over is designed to prevent exactly that. And here's something you absolutely have to understand. This is never, ever a solo mission. Your safety and the safety of everyone around you depends on a team of 3 people working in perfect sync. So let's meet the players, shall we? First, you've got the HCP, that's the healthcare personnel who's actually providing patient care. Then you have the DA, or doffing assistant, who's there to provide hands-on help. And finally, the TO, the trained observer. Think of them as the director of this entire show. Okay, so the HCP is inside the hot zone, face-to-face with the patient. The DA is hands-on during that super dangerous removal phase. But the trained observer, they are the guide, the overseer. They're literally reading from a checklist, making sure every single step is followed to the letter. They are the voice of the protocol. All right, let's get into it. How is this barrier actually built? It all starts with donning, putting the gear on. The goal here is simple: create a completely flawless, sealed barrier between the healthcare worker and the threat. And all of it happens under the watchful eye of that trained observer. Now, before anything else, the HCP hydrates, gets rid of all personal items, and inspects every piece of gear. Then it begins, layer by meticulous layer. First action, hand hygiene. Then, inner gloves go on, and maybe an optional cooling vest for endurance. Next up, the powered air purifying respirator system, the PAP, gets secured at the waist. Now for the main barrier. The coverall goes on, but hold on, don't zip it up yet. The PAPR hood gets snapped into place. Then come the outer shoe covers, followed by the big guns, the outer extended cuff gloves. You see how each layer builds on the last? And this right here is a perfect example of that teamwork. The assistant steps in to tape the outer gloves right to the coverall sleeves, creating a perfect, unbroken seal. They even make a little tab on the tape to make it easier to get off later. Genius. Then they tie the hood and an apron. Nothing is left to chance. Okay, this is the final checkpoint before entering the patient area. The HCP does a full 360-degree spin. The trained observer is inspecting every single inch, making sure there is absolutely no exposed skin, no gaps, nothing. Only after they give the green light can the HCP go in. And now, we've arrived at the most dangerous part of the entire process: doffing. Taking off contaminated gear is where the vast majority of exposures happen. Every move has to be slow, deliberate, and guided. Here, speed is your worst enemy. Believe it or not, this all starts before you even leave the patient's room, right there inside the hot zone. There's a specific area, usually right by the door, that's designated just for this. And this is where you see the rhythm of safety in action. The trained observer inspects the suit for any tears. Then you remove one item, the apron. What's next? You got it, hand hygiene. Remove the outer shoe covers. Hand hygiene again. Remove the outer gloves. And once more, hand hygiene. This repetition, this rhythm, is the very heart of the process. With those outermost, dirtiest layers gone, the HCP disinfects the door handle and makes that critical move out of the patient's room. And they're incredibly careful not to touch a single thing on the way out. So the HCP is now in the warm zone, a totally separate, dedicated doffing room, and this is where the doffing assistant is waiting, ready to provide that critical hands-on help. Now check out this coordination. The HCP unties the front of the hood, then turns their back to the doffing assistant. Then the DA reaches under the contaminated hood to fully unzip the coverall from behind. See what that does? It minimizes the HCP's contact with the most contaminated surfaces. It's brilliant. And that sequence continues with that exact same relentless rhythm. The HCP removes the hood, bending forward to let it just fall away. Hand hygiene. The PAPR system and vest come off. Hand hygiene. The coverall gets rolled down, turning it inside out to trap all that contamination. And yep, hand hygiene again. Now for the finale. While sitting on a special stool, the HCP carefully rolls the coverall down and off their feet, stepping directly into a clean area marked as the green zone. The very, very last piece of gear to come off is that inner pair of gloves. But hold on, the job still isn't done. The doffing assistant now carefully bundles up that discarded coverall, disposes of it properly, disinfects the entire doffing area, and only then do they begin to take off their own PPE, following a similar careful procedure. So when you look at all this, you realize it goes so far beyond just checking boxes on a list. It's really about building a disciplined, team-based mindset where every single action is intentional and has a purpose. So what are the big takeaways? It's simple, really. Slow is safe. Hand hygiene is absolutely non-negotiable. Communication has to be constant. You have to trust your team, especially that voice of the trained observer guiding you through. And the mission is not over until the entire area is clean and safe for the next person. And this quote from the protocol itself just hammers it home. This whole thing is an observed, assisted team effort from start to finish. Safety is a shared responsibility, period. In the end, look, anyone can read a checklist. That's the easy part. But building these actions into a true culture of disciplined practice, that's what actually saves lives. So the question isn't just, do you know the steps? It's, does your team have the discipline to execute them flawlessly every single time? Are you truly ready?